as OG. Firstly, note that this is an actor motion. So we're looking at it from the point of view of the University Scholarship Fund. And notice that this fund has a couple of goals in mind that we should preserve, right? Firstly, you probably as a fund want to survive with regards to like keeping your position in the university. Secondly, you probably want to thrive, right? That means that you want to like help as many students as possible. So that means that you probably want to succeed within like the framework of the university. You probably want to get more funding in the future, all of which to then help you fulfill your goal further. Number three, and this is quite important, you're already a fund specifically focused on marginalized identity groups, which means that like the value that you already espouse is like helping people based off of their identity. So the more that you help people based off of their identity, it's the better that you fulfill your goal, because that was the purpose for which you were created in the first place. So it means that if like opposition wants to say that like economic necessity can be comparable, we don't necessarily think that's the case, because the very purpose as to why we were created was to help based off of identity, as that stems from the phrasing of the motion. Secondly, second piece of framing, and this is quite important, like we think in general, if there's like, let's say, like really rich black people, we don't think that they will like misuse this fund in order to get money when they clearly don't need to do so, because there is some sense of solidarity. There is some sense that you should not take money away from people who actually need it from those funds. So we don't necessarily think that events like that will happen. So we really think that the money will go more to the people who also need it the most. Three arguments then. First one, about why we are able to secure way more funding than opposition and why this is a good thing from the standpoint of the actor. Firstly, merit-based hires will probably get better results in the university, right? There's a couple of reasons for that. Firstly, they have probably done a huge amount of work to train for the tests, or to like train for whatever the type of the admission process is. All of that means that they have probably struggled pretty hard in school, which means that they already have gained a lot of knowledge in the past that they can then try to use in the university. Secondly, it can mean in many instances that they are like smarter, that they are faster learners, that they have specific talents or specific unique skills, whether that be that they're like really great at economics, or maybe they're like an amazing debater, which is useful then for the school because they can, for example, represent the school. Thirdly, maybe they're just like really hardworking and industrious, and this is a quality that will generally help them succeed in school. The bottom line is that when you hire, or when you accept students based off of merit, those students will probably perform much better when they will actually be in the university, right? And why is this important? Because the university is very happy when it gets these types of students, right? Because, hey, you can, for example, represent the university by doing different activities, right? So if you were hired because you're a great chess player, and then your university can put like you on their websites because you like won some local university chess match, this is something that the university wants, because it's something that will make that represents the university. Number two, because for example, the university can see its average GPA or its average graduation rate go up because you have been a student that was hardworking. But number three, there are, for example, more success stories that they can share of their alumni, because you will probably also then be more successful later on in life, because like in general, there are specific characteristics that a person has that make them have like good results, that get them into university, get them through the university, and also make them have a better life in the future, right? Know that this is crucially important, because since these people are likely to be, you know, from specific identity marginalized identity groups, this will get like even more recognition, because this is something that universities are trying to signal to the rest of the world. So this is especially important for the universities to be able to signal, right? Why is this important? Because once the universities notice that your specific that your specific a university fund or your specific part of the university structure gives them all of these benefits, they will be able to trace this back to you, right? Because they do stuff like annual reports. There are like, there are people in the university in specific high-ranking positions that notice this stuff, and this can be traced back to you. This means that the program will look successful, and the university will probably want to reward you just based off of the fact that you were successful, but also because they want you to use that money even better in the future, because they know that this is a good investment for them to make. This means that in turn, you will probably be able to get much more money on our side, which means that you will be able to fund even more students, right? And and expand your ability to fund them, right? Notice that this is an argument over the long run, right? Because like even if opposition manages to maybe prove that like economic necessity can be relatively more significant, or that they have a higher obligation to help these types of students, we think that we are able to help overall everyone way more, and even these types of students in the long run, insofar as we augment the absolute amount of money that we have. Before going to the second argument, I'll take a POI from CEO.
Do you believe the only incentive for sponsors to sponsor those things is to fund super successful students, or are there other incentives that can be?
Yeah, so I think there are other incentives, but I think we already capture these incentives by the virtue of already funding marginalized identity groups, right? So like insofar as your point is like virtue signaling, we think this captures it like perfectly, because like note that like socialist policies are in general unpopular. The fact that we're talking about places with paid university with expensive expensive tuition is probably stuff like America, where this would be really unpopular. So like identity-based solutions are quite popular there, right? Second argument about why, if we actually hire students more based off of economic necessity than merit, they will be worse off when there will be actually in the university. 2 points here. Firstly, they will feel like they're imposters, right? Because note that they will probably discuss their backgrounds with other students. They will discuss stuff like their SAT scores, or maybe if they did a specific program like the IB or the AP, they will discuss their scores on that, and they will see that they are heavily underperforming compared to other students, because that is not the reason as to why they were hired there. This is quite important, because this might make them feel like they're not included, like they don't belong there. That can make them doubt themselves, which will not only reflect badly on their psyche, which means that opposition isn't even helping them as much in the first place, but it will also probably reflect badly on their grades, right? Because this is something that piles on. This is something that can leave you stressed out, anxious, and depressed. And when you like have one failure, that's when it like clicks and you start saying, okay, I know that I shouldn't be here, right? Secondly, though, you'll probably get like some form of hate from other students, right? Because note that not every student is like a super lefty liberal debater. Many of the students will think like, why is this guy here, right? Like they probably took him only because of that specific identity characteristic, right? Which means that you will probably get some form of like a backlash from the other university students as well, which means that opposition cannot secure the life that they will claim to secure. For all of those reasons, please vote OG.
Thank you very much for that speech. I would now like to welcome the leader of the opposition here.
Okay, I'm starting in 3, 2, 1. I will have 2 parts in my speech. One, why we are going to hugely help the lives of needy people, and 2, why we're having more delta and more effective change in our side. I'm starting with fewer battles. The first battle about that the university will give more money to the fund because it helps show diversity. 2 battles for that. One, we are talking about people who are relatively successful. This does not mean that they are the best successful students in the university. We're talking about a black person who can play chess well, but is not the best player in the university. So it's unlikely that the university will put him in the university website. So, and thus, this will also impacts that the university will send more money to the fund because it's really helpful for them. The second point is that OG concede that university like to show diversity, but the ability of university to show diversity is much lower if all you have among your students is 2 black students, which are somewhat relatively good performing. People are going to attack you that are only caring for the rich, strong black people and neglecting the other black person, and your ability to show diversity is less, and therefore, according to OG's analysis, the amount of money the university will get, the fund will get from the university is also less. Then the next part of the battle, they say that weak people, that peer people will discuss with their friends about their grades and will feel neglected from university. This is not true for 2 reasons. One, they miss how social interaction between students happen. Students don't talk about grades all the time. Like who actually ready to go to a party in the university and then tell about bad grades I get. But 2, the students care less about bad grades. Like all of us had bad exams. All of there are many other less performing students. So this is not going to make them feel neglected. Now, my first point. Moreover, one more point about it. Note that these people that OG are talking about are likely to go to university in either way. This is for two reasons. One, they have enough money to learn by themselves. We are not talking about the most rich people, as OG say. We are talking about people who can go to university, but the money to pay the university will be somewhat burden on them. But if they don't get a scholarship, they can, for example, take a loan or something and still go to university because they are not so poor as the other people. So in our world, if we focus on the other people, more people will go to university. Will have more people like OG want. My first point about helping people who have about helping the needy. Okay, we say that we are talking about people who have the potential to succeed, but did not, but was not able to succeed in the past because of previous factors. While OG trying to convince you that these people have less skills and are less potential to succeed, we think that this is not true for the following reasons. One, while they were in school, there are a lot of factors that prevented them from learning and focusing in school. For example, they had to help in house chores. They have their parents were working late, and therefore they had to help their children. But if we give them a fund from the scholarship, then they have to work a part-time job. They can live in dorms, and thus they won't have to care for their brothers all the time because they live alone, and therefore they will be able to focus much more on learning, and will be the delta they will be making is much larger. So in our world, we are getting a student who was performing like 30% good and push him further to 80%, while what is OG is trying to do is take up people who were performing already good, like 85%, and only push them quite a few grades to 90%. So the amount of delta we have on our side is much greater. Now, the next reason for this is that we will help poor people to develop ties within that university. Not that poor people live in their own neighborhoods and are able to meet less employers and have less ties. Therefore, their ability to get in work place in the future is much harder. But if we let them enter the university, even if they won't perform so much, even if they want to be the best performance, simply the fact that you meet new friends, send your CV to other people, start to go to hackathons, start to see events about corporations making lectures at the university. This actually puts in front of you a new whole world. This is therefore the delta for the needy people will be much greater than the already good performing other people who can go to the university by their own, or who also can get a fund from a scholarship from another funds. Because in functional democracies there is a huge amount of funds. Therefore, the people who perform good can actually go to other funds and get money and enter the university either way. So this is about how helping the needy people. Before I continue, closing UI. Opening.
Yeah, so you said that you had to help at home a lot. So assuming that you leave, you either will still need to somehow do that and still not be great at your studies, or your home will be left behind.
Okay. Thank you.
That's both bad.
Okay. Two things. As I said, we are not taking a person and we are not making them the best performing students in the school, but we only push them to an amount where they can get like 80% grade, which is very good. But two, now you actually have much less things to care about because you are living your own. You receive a scholarship and don't have to work a part-time. So even if you still have these things, you have less of them. Okay, so this is about helping the needy. One, now about the weighing where we have more data. One, we're helping a greater amount of people, like a greater number of people, because the number of better performing people is less. Because in order to be better performing, you have to be most than other of the people, better than the most other of the people. Therefore, there is very few people who are well performing. Why this is important? Because when we help like only 5 students out of our community, this is much likely that many of them will go to the city and migrate from the country and not come back to the village to actually help the needy people in there. But if we help like 20 people who are needy and these people can now get jobs, it's much likely like that about 50% of them will stay in the village and help the village. But also when we have more educated people, this will give a message to employers that they can now open a business in this poor neighborhoods, because there's a greater number of workforce who are educated, who can rely with, and thus people will start opening more businesses in poor areas. So for all of this is because the delta is greater, because the people of OG will be going to university either way, and because the amount of change we are doing is greater. Please.
Thank you very much for that speech. I would now like to welcome the Deputy Prime Minister. Here.
Cool, let me just quickly check that I'm audible before I start. Cool, in like 10 seconds, I'm going to set up my timeline. I should be starting then. Speech starting in 3, 2, 1. So 2 extraneous responses before I start on whipping Alex's case. Firstly, they tell us that, you're not going to accept excellent students already, but probably they're going to be somewhere average, even in the best case scenario that we give you, right? I think one response, yes, that's probably true. But notice that there's a distinction between a person that was bad in maths in high school between a person that was good in maths in high school. Notice these differences get carried over into the university. That is to say, our case is not contingent on us actually accepting the most excellent students in all of the university, but just getting the best out of the communities that they have to offer. I think this is principally different from what the leader of opposition tries to claim, and kind of misses our case. But secondly, they tell us, which I think is the crux of the opposition's case in this debate, is that they say, look, probably the best gifted in by merits people that you're going to accept are going to be the richest ones. 3 responses to this. 1, notice if they're really rich, it is unclear to me why the parents of them do not already send them to great schools, right? Because at the point at which you're quite rich, you'll probably have all the opportunities necessary, even if it's like political capital or stuff like that, to access already good schools in the first place. Notice this is reciprocal. At the point at which you access better schools, you can climb up higher even without anything like loans. But secondly, notice it completely misses the comparative. Alex already told you that, look, at the point at which you have, even if you have like probably a little richer people in these universities, they have this spillover effect at the point at which they actually funnel that money back either in the communities or in the university fund, which is uniquely made by the fact that they are like probably a little bit more wealthier in the first place, right? I think this is crucial because it eliminates the biases that Alex talked about previously, right? All the things that you've been selected not based on your merit, but just on economic situation, because this is why we won't accept you in the university, right? I think these externalities do not exist in opposition's case. But thirdly, even if that's the case, notice that all of these communities are really, really good at funneling the capital back to their community, like to them or to the poorest members of these communities, right? What this looks like is probably even the richest of these people, even not taking this funding, but just trying to achieve that by themselves, right? And leaving that to people that actually need it the most. I think this largely deals with the material that we, in best case scenario, can get from a law. Now from how it empowers the minority individuals in the universities. Notice, Alex already explained you how this betters the optics of these minority students in 2 mechanistic reasons. One, let's analyze the broad population in the university, right? Notice the discrimination against quotas based on economic status have a really, really rampant discrimination against them. Why? Because it's so important for people to get into universities in the first place. Notice now on our side of the house, at the point at which you mitigate this big argument from the backlash members, you allow this community to actually accept people a lot more easier. That is to say, it probably looks like not you telling that black person that he shouldn't actually be here, but actually saying that, look, he was the best from that community, so it's much more likely that we should accept that in our case scenario. Secondly, by analyzing the preferences of these minority individuals on our side of the house, notice due to this stereotypization and black backlash from the community, they're much more likely to actually feel of less value. This is just called like priming, right? If I tell you this 100 times, you're much more likely to just ingrain that in your brain and think that you're even worse at even worse at these studies than you are. Notice at the point at which this backlash disappears and you see that there's a particular merit by which you've been selected, be it like debating skill or economic skills, right, in economics courses, you now feel a lot more confident and actually doing the things in university better than you actually did before. Why is this a tipping point in actually creating a buy-in into these policies in the first place? Notice this happens because of two reasons. One, the biggest reason why these minority people are actually reluctant to take the funding is because of this backlash from the majority of populations. Just look at Ivy League schools, right? If you're a minority, you're much more likely to be pressed rather than if you're really good at the subject that you are studying. But secondly, you know this, it feels really bad at the point at which you cannot excel to the same amount of level as the majority of population. E.g., black dudes, yeah, in schools, right? Sorry for that, but not the right day for this. But like the same thing goes in the high schools, right? That you have currently like lower standards for minority people. At the point at which we break this, we actually allow these people to get more buy-in because they feel more confident about themselves. Notice this is the tipping point in increasing the buy-in in actually all of these policies. Why then this fulfills all the aims that Alex set you before? Before I continue with that closing, you got anything?
It sounds by your analysis that you send a message to those communities that only the best of them are capable or worthy to integrate with the role of society. Is that a message that you want to send?
Like, look, that's the same message we send in me applying for the university, right? I'm never being adjudicated by how rich I am, but how good at my subject I am. I think this is symmetric in all the ways that you can imagine it. Not sure what was the aim of that POY. Now, on why this fulfills all of the Alex's set aims. Notice that one, you're now much more likely to excel in your own subject because you have this like already a baggage of this merit that is necessary for your studies. I think that probably a characterization of these oppressed communities. They're really, really popular in funneling the capital back to their communities, right? That's how they strive. It probably looks like the richest members of the society actually getting back from university to their communities and actually improving them by building schools and things as such. I think this is really important because it's likely that this infrastructure made by these really, really successful minority people is going to now start appearing in these communities, which is fundamental to actually increasing the capacity at which we can get people into these policies. But secondly, they're much more likely now to give back to the uni fund, right? At the point at which you excel in your subject much more, you're much more likely to be hired by your employee and disregard all of the like biases even against the minority members because you're so good to start with, right? What that means is you're much more likely to get more money in the student fund to have more people actually engage with it. Notice this is a crucial tipping point in this debate because we can have a lot more people in the first place engaging with this policy. Now, a quick way up of what OO tells you. They tell you, but we're going to actually have more people. They never prove that, right? Alex and I have a clear mechanism as to why this capital funneling actually happens in the first place. And what CO tells you then is that, you're not going to accept the most successful of these people. I think that's our aim, right? We want to have the best talent from these communities to lessen the stereotypes and to increase the capacity at which they can generate capital and funnel that back to their communities. Due to all of these reasons, vote COG.
Thank you very much for that speech. I would now like to welcome the Deputy Leader of Opposition here.
Just to check very quickly, am I audible? Great, just a second. All right, I'm starting in 3, 2, 1. The main problem with OG's case is that they never show us why the people who get the scholarships under their side of the house actually need the scholarships. They tell us one specific piece of framing about this that is really unanalyzed, that rich people will not misuse this because some sense of solidarity towards other people that are part of my identity group. We say that this is extremely unlikely because people are inherently very opportunistic. right? They see a chance. Okay, I can either pay full tuition right now to get into university, or I can just not do that and have it for free because I am skilled, because I have merit, etc. So obviously they would rather take the easy money and pay less if they have that opportunity, rather than say, oh no, someone that I don't even know needs it more than me. People don't generally think like that. Now, who are then likely to be the people of merit, right? OG already describes to you they're probably hardworking, maybe they are maybe they have some kind of special talent, etc. But notice that these are usually the people, even if they're cut from a marginalized group, that usually had the best outcome upcoming, right? They usually came from, like, I don't know, maybe their parents allowed them to pay for private school so that they have very good grades, or at least they have some kind of economic capacity in order to get an unfair advantage, or an advantage of some sort over other people in their community, right? We say because of this, it's actually very unlikely that the people who get these scholarships are actually needing them and actually make a significant delta. Secondly, they tell us that people will feel like they're imposters and they will underperform. Notice here two very crucial things. One, they just assume that these people underperform and they never tell us why. This gets completely taken down by two separate points of mechanisms given to you by Rami about why the people who get the scholarships on our side of the house, even if they have weak socioeconomic background, are still going to succeed. One, they can focus better on education because they now don't have to work another job, and therefore they will succeed less. And secondly, they will get more ties, more opportunities to actually get a career later. Please notice, panel, both of these mechanisms went completely unresponded to by OG, which means that actually, with their lack of analysis on why they're going to be underperforming, our analysis on why they will actually perform relatively well, maybe they won't be the best, right? But perform relatively well, enough to get their degree, enough to get the stable jobs that they would otherwise not get, still stands completely. Secondly, we think they have a big misconception that scholarship means somehow bypassing the criteria to get accepted into university. This is simply not what it means. The fact that we get a scholarship to someone means that we give money to, or pay a certain amount of the tuition to get into university after that person has already proven that they have the capability to get into university and have the same educational standard to perform well. Universities check this for SATs, standardized testing. They already know who is likely to succeed and who doesn't, which means that the scholarships only help people afford these kind of things. And it doesn't matter that, and it doesn't mean, like OG asserts completely, that we're going to get people who are, for some reason, uneducated. What does this mean? First of all, it means people are not actually going to get hate, also because of the rebuttal that Rami already gave you, that this is simply not how people communicate with each other, that also went unresponded. But secondly, because they're very unlikely to underperform either way. On the comparative, they're very likely to underperform actually on OG side of the house, because we told you that they have a lot of external pressure without the scholarships to actually be able to perform. What I showed you right now about OG's case. First of all, I showed you that hate is very unlikely because of their misunderstanding of who actually gets into the school. And secondly, that these people are much likely to perform well rather than overperform. Now let's understand why we actually help the ones that are in need. But before that, I would love to take CG.
Okay, so you're assuming that the more ethnic students in the university, like the more amount is equal to the more success to the fund. You are not regarding to the fact we're talking about the fund and not the whole state or the government.
Thank you. Please notice that even if the exact same amount of students get the scholarships when we use merit-based systems and when we use economic needs-based systems, which is, even if that is true, then we still say that we help the ones that are most needed. We say that just on your side of the house, the people that get the scholarships can do just fine by themselves. Why we think this is true, okay? Couple of reasons. First of all, we tell you that these people have, the merit-based people have alternatives, right? They most likely will get in anyway, because if they have an economic need, they're most likely to be economically stable, and they're more likely to get into the university without the scholarships, which means that the scholarship is just an added bonus for them. Secondly, they have alternative scholarships, because there are much more scholarships that are based on merit without marginalized groups than scholarships that help marginalized groups specifically. Why is this the case? Because the scholarships that fund merit-based people are usually the ones that are more funded, built by the rich for the rich. What does this mean on the comparative? OG side of the house, when we get merit-based, the comparative for the people who get the scholarships or not is I go to university in both sides of the house, either without the scholarships or with. Because I'm very talented, I'm very likely to succeed on both sides of the house. Our comparative is much, much stronger, because when we help the ones that are in economic need, we say that the comparative for these people is either go to university with the scholarships or not go at all, because they just can't afford it, even though they're academically talented enough to do it. Even if they go to university, they're very unlikely to succeed without the scholarships because of the mechanisms we're already provided. What does this mean for the debate? Two things. First of all, the delta that OG shows is much, much weaker, because they give a little bit of help for people who don't need help. On our side of the house, we show you that the delta in the success of the people who we get the scholarships in when they go to university is much, much larger. So, and secondly, will help the people who actually need this the most. So in conclusion, what we did is show you that we just help people who much more need it, and the amount of help that they get is much bigger. And secondly, we took down and dealt with the arguments coming from OG, and their impacts no longer stand weighing them on ours. For those reasons, please oppose. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that speech and the entire first half. I would now like to welcome the Member of Government here.
Okay, just a second. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, so I'm going to talk about, I want to show you, to remind you the purpose of our scholarship fund. Our purpose is to improve the position of the identity groups in the population. We are a fund that focuses on identity groups, so it's important for us that these groups are going to become much more successful in the general population. Okay, so I'm going to show you how we are going to achieve our goal by focusing on, by giving our funds to students based on merit and not on economic status. How we are going to improve the motivations of the people in that identity groups, and how we are going to get more money to the fund. So first of all, some rebuttal. The opposition really likes to say that what is going to happen is that all our money is going to go to the rich people. There are some rich people that don't need our money and that are going to take all our money. But in the reality, it's not true. Maybe for richer people, it's easier to get to achieve more goals and higher grades. But when we are giving funds based on merits, we are not giving funds to anyone who has a grades of 90, for example. No, we are focusing on the top 1 population of that identity groups. Even if rich people has all that resources and personal teachers, it's still not going to be that top 1 population. Maybe it's going to be good at school, but not the best on school. And you are focusing on the best of that identity groups. And furthermore, let's remind us that we are speaking about very specific groups in the population. There are not many rich people inside that populations. There are people that are being discriminated on daily basis. So it's very easy to imagine that there are a lot of rich people that are going to take our money, but it's not the case. So we are going to focus on the median people. We think that it's more realistic that the people that are going to get the fund are from the median. And okay, so first of all, when we are prioritizing people based on merit, it is more likely that these students are going to succeed because they are good at school, they have motivation, they know how to work hard, it's not strange to them the life on university, how to study, they know all of the stuff, and they have more chances of succeeding in the future. Why is it important for us as a scholarship fund? What we want to do is to take that population and to actually give them more power in the population. If we are now taking 100 people that are really poor and get them to average scores, it's not going to be very effective if we are going to take the top 1 population and get them to be the best in their country. Why? Because when we are taking the best and making them even better than they are now, what is going to happen is that people are going to take very skillful jobs in the economy. They are going to become CEO of companies. They are going to create more startups. They are going to go to the government office, and even we are going to have a prime minister from that identity group. When we are going to do these things, the power of that identity groups that we want to improve their situation is going to become much more better. Because when people of that population, maybe there are, when we are going to give them more focus from the population, the government is going to maybe to fund them more, to build infrastructure in their neighbors, in the neighborhoods, and the people themselves, when they are going to see that there is a prime minister that once lived in their neighborhood and their family knows him or something like that, they are going to become much more motivated to actually go and do something with their lives. I will take a POI first, opening.
Please notice that when we talk about people who will get the scholarships on your side of the house, they can go to other scholarships that are not based on identity, but will still give them because they have a lot of merit. And 2, they will still able to afford university without the scholarships. Please engage.
Okay, so I don't know why you think that they are able to afford another university without the scholarship, because maybe they are coming from a good house, but they still can't afford the best universities. And like I said, we want to take the best and take them and make them the best in the country. We are talking like very specific universities that it's not likely to happen that they are going to afford us without the scholarship. So I want to go to my second argument. Why it is going to motivate even more the people in that groups. We as a scholarship fund, we want to prioritize success and hard work over specific situation. When we are going to take some poor man and give him money only because he is poor and he happened to be in a poor family, we are not driving anyone to actually succeed and work hard. Because when we say something like something else, when we say that we are going to give you money if you prove that you are good enough to get that money, then we are going to make the population think, oh, I had some neighbor that he worked really hard and got the scholarship. We are going to encourage people to work hard and to actually get out of that bad situation that they have. Okay, so after all of this, please support.
Thank you very much for that speech. I would now like to welcome the member of opposition here.
You're being shooed away. Okay. I have so much going on. So I am going to start in. I'm assuming I'm audible. Can you hear me? Cool. I'm starting in 3, 2, 1, and I'm going to tell you on our side of the house, you just have more long-term change. Most of my rebuttal is going to be integrated because we're in direct clash with the second government, but one piece of external rebuttal. They're trying to claim that the way that they'll achieve like societal change is because then if the people are excellent, they'll be able to reach like higher positions in companies, presumably. But I think that the fact that they're coming from a marginalized community to begin with is just going to make that exceedingly hard for them. They are going to probably be able to take their skills and get like a base level job, but the amount of effort that they will need to like put in order to be able to like prove themselves to be like good enough to get a higher like position versus the fact that people like already have like pre-existing notions about those people from this marginalized community is going to make that exceedingly hard for them, and we're not going to have that much delta on their side versus on our side. And this is where I get to my argument, which is that we care about reaching more people, even if most of those people are going to be average and not excellent. Before that, 2 pieces of framing. First one that is going to engage with the first government. They're talking about the fact that like one of the main incentives of this fund is getting sponsors. I think that if we can prove to the sponsors that what we do is better for the community as a whole, they're more likely to donate just because that's the whole reason that they donate. And second piece of framing, I don't think that anyone actually said like what this is going to look like prioritizing like merit over like financial need. So this is what we think this is going to look like. It's probably looks like if you're prioritizing merit, you're probably choosing like the 3 best students or whatever, and then you're going to allow them to achieve like many like higher level degrees and like special courses and stuff like that, versus on our side of the house you probably take like 30 students or something like that and give all of them a first degree in something they can then take and like get a base level job with. This is what we think it means to prioritize financial need over merit. So then what this means on our side of the debate is you're going to be persisting with everyone, even the people who are average and are not brilliant. And this point I'm going to skip because it's been said. Just because we care about reaching as many people as possible, because we think that the whole reason that those people need help in the first place is because of like underlying reasons as to why they've been either unable to succeed or not being incentivized enough to succeed. We think that what you need in order to like be able to like succeed in life is something that starts very early and comes from home. You need good education, whether it means like actually private school or even just like being able to like go to school and not have to start working from a young age. It also means possibly free time in order to be able to like do your homework properly, again, which comes from like not having to work from a young age, maybe having tutors. And also something that you need an example of what it is you need to do in life in order to be successful. And that is something that you can best get from your parents. You need to be able to like have the mentality that like if you put in the work, you're able to succeed. And that is not something that you're going to have if the only examples that you get from people around you are either just the people, most of the average people that are not succeeding, or even if you have the 1 or 2 examples from your community of people that have made it, you know that those are people that are exceptional and brilliant. And fact is, not everyone is like that. Most of the people, just by virtue of the fact that you're like putting people on like different tiers of success and like comparing them to each other, most of the people are just going to be average. And then this is going to like lead people to think that I'm sorry, I made a bit of a mess. Okay, so people like need example from their parents, even if they know that like, okay, so most like of the people that are going to like come out of like our side of the debate are not going to be the next Einstein. They're they're just going to be like average people with an average job. But then this is still like a better example for the kids versus like having like very few people that have managed to make it. And then okay, so what I want to say about that, okay, so first of all, it is going to be easier for the kids to get this example from their parents versus from strangers, because their parents are like closer to them, and it's easier for a kid to see themselves in their parents because they like know like their circumstances, and they are more able to like also see what they do in the day-to-day life, and then be able to understand like what to do in order to succeed, versus seeing just like a stranger who's far from me, who maybe has been lucky, maybe is just like exceptionally clever, and I as a kid have no reason to believe that I am exceptionally clever, because I'm part of this marginalized community, and basically all of my life I've been told that I'm like not good enough in order to succeed. So then the comparative is that on so like what you get from their side is the message that only if you are brilliant you're going to be able to succeed, and so then you like are going to think, okay, I have no chance to succeed. I have no chance to get this extra help that these people got in order, like in way of a fund. So then why should I even waste my time in order to try? At this point, I want the first house, please.
Excellent. Given that merit is a really success predictive trait, actually having like refunneling capital because these people get more successful on our side of the house is what uplifts the communities. How do you compare in this clash?
I don't really understand what you're saying. I think that like helping a lot of people that are going to be average is definitely on our side of the debate. And as we've proven, is something that is better for the community. I think your side of the debate, you're arguing for fewer people, more success. Sure, we don't think that we need to argue for like significant success and have like the 3 people that we have chosen to find have like all of the like higher degrees and like be able to like make it extremely big, which like also is going to be harder for them to do given that they're like part of a marginalized community. You just need a lot of people that are like have a job, because those people are also going to be able to like and this is the point that I missed before, those people are also going to be able to give their kids like a better environment to succeed in. They're going to be able to send them to like a slightly better school. They're at the very least, those kids are then not going to have to like work from a young age in order to support their families, because their parents have jobs just by virtue of the fact that like they have a degree and they can find like a sustainable job somewhere. So then for all of those reasons, please oppose.
Thank you very much for that speech. I would now like to invite the government whip. Here.
Hi, okay. Okay, I'm gonna start in 3, 2, 1. Okay, 2 main clashes in this debate. The first is the purpose of the fund, what is it, and from what side we're talking about the funding, never mind. And the second clash is the actual impact on society and on the students who will get the fund and those who aren't. So, first of all, few rebuttals for the speaker before me. We talked about a rate of 330 numbers of how much we can help by economic funding and how much we can help by merit funding. So I don't sure I buy this rate, but even if I do, but in your side of the house, you get them to a university, but then what? They're gonna get into most basic work. Nobody assures that they're gonna succeed anything more. And then we get a very small impact on a very small amount of group. And it's very in contrary to what my partner said before, that we have a major impact on this group when we represent them in wider and higher places and roles. So, and another thing has been said before me, that students will say, I don't have the chance to succeed, so why even try? I'm not sure why it doesn't apply to our side of the house, that people say, if I get 100, it doesn't matter to anyone, so why should I try? So, important clarification that we need to have in mind that we are speaking as the fund from the university, and that's why we do want as much more representation and diversity and successful stories from them, and not the lower jobs, not just donation, but successful donations, like people who get to higher places. So I'm gonna get into my clashes and then a few waiting. So the first one, the purpose of the fund. So what we get from opening opening opposition is that that it's to help people, just to help the more poor from these groups, that they can succeed into even an average level, and that's what they want. If we do it according to the economical situation, so we just get more and more people into the university, versus the first government who said that the fund will thrive and have like more values, and eventually they have achievements and in the university world. What we get from my partner and our side is that we actually have even more impact on the society itself. Once we have people who get to the government roles and CEOs and everything that he mentioned, we have actually an impact to all the population, because when children see the people of their race and their ethnic group, they see them getting to higher places, it's a role model for them, and they see it much more accessible than they are now. Okay, and if I only get if I do it only by the economical priority, so I won't see as much as I will on our side of the house. I won't see the role models, and I won't see the impact that my partner showed you. Okay, so actually, if we will achieve people that have how is it going to work? Okay, so they have much more motivation, and they're more likely to succeed in the future, because merit is based on motivation and skills, not only that or that. So if they have the motivation, and it's not only for the rich, as opening opposition tries to say, that only the rich have the opportunities to succeed. No, you also need to have the motivation for it. So those ethnic groups will get much more influence on the general population. They will be much more stronger and much more presented in the country. So what we get in the second clash is the impacts on society and students. So opening opposition is the main one to talk about how less people will go to university, and it's easier for rich students to succeed, as I said before, and student who will get the money doesn't need it, or everything. So first of all, let's say that this money is a personal success. Even if I have money, I have the personal stamp that I did it, I succeeded. Okay, and secondly, even if I'm from the medium level, it gets me to work at, maybe volunteer at some places that will later get me to higher places. And also opening opposition assumes that rich people are super skilled, and no, maybe they have available time, but the motivation and skills are not the most important. So when we talk in this motion, we need to ask ourselves if we're talking about the short term. Yeah, maybe we'll get a little bit less students in the reality from the poor ethnic group, but what we get is something much more important. We get fewer people, but more successful that can reach much more higher places because of this scholarship and because of this stamp of success. They will keep doing and keep working hard, and then we'll get presentation and much more effect on the society in general. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that speech. I would now like to welcome the opposition whip. Here, here.
Oh, cool. Am I audible? Yeah. All right. I'll start my speech in 1, 2, and 3. Two clashes in this debate. On which side we get a higher level for the entire community, and on which side we help the brilliant people in this community better to perform. I will explain to you why we win both, but first off, I want to explain to you why this first clash I talked about is way more significant and important, and will also lead to the second clash being won by us than the first clash. So we think that our first opposition do a very good job of explaining to you why there are certain people that are brilliant that get missed out because of different circumstances, and we think that we agree with that. But we think that from accepting our side, we get a way more significant and more important impact to the community than just that, once you take into the consideration the fact that we want to help not only the people that are brilliant, but also the people that are only average. Before I get into what we explain to you, I want to refute a certain thing that both of governments decided for some reason that certainly will happen, and I don't think is true. Both governments for some reason decided that once we have these brilliant people that are so successful, they are going to go back at some point to their community and help them to move along and achieve better situations for all of the community. Now, note that that is not necessarily going to be the case, and especially it's not going to be the case if you take our analysis as to why, when you only have the brilliant people, you are not working into getting up the whole marginalized group. Note that on the side of the governments, if you take our analysis into account, the group as a whole, considering that we only have very particular people that are really successful, the group as a whole is very likely, at least at the short term, I will in the long term as well, to stay marginalized. Which means that, for example, the racist people that the government's talking about and said that, no, but this group cannot succeed, are still there and still thinking the same thing. Only they say, oh, well, a couple of their best ones are able to succeed, so I guess we'll give them the chance to do it, but the other ones, I don't know if they'll necessarily succeed to the same degree. It means that the actual people that are very successful will have a way harder time to succeed at the time that their group is still remaining marginalized and still remains in a hard position for themselves. It means that they actually have an incentive to distance themselves from this group. In the first place, if we don't help the actual group to be more prominent in our society, which is a thing that you only achieve by our analysis that we give you about helping all of the group to get along further, and that is a thing that we think is crucial in order to help this group to get out. And that also answers the fact about the funding and all the things about sponsors. We think that in the end, the reason that people want to sponsor this kind of situation is to help those communities for whatever internal reason they want to help them, either virtue signaling or they actually care. It's not important really for me, but the reason they want to do it is to show they helping those communities. And we think that once we prove to you that helping the community means to help all the people, they will fund them regardless, and the money will go for better ends than in the other comparative. So we think that in the end, there is a very clear thing that we want to speak about here. when we help only a particular amount of people, when we speak only about brilliant people, which all of the other teams in this house did, when we are talking about a very small percentage that we are helping. Now, it's important to help to those people too, but we can both help them, but it is crucial that we help the other people that are not likely to succeed under any other circumstances because of reasons that were already given to you. They are not likely to succeed, especially because they are only average, but people that are able to succeed if we give them the funding. That is important because once you help the average person, which is the absolute majority of this group, it means that the group as a whole has more leverage and has more possibility to go up in the levels of society. It means that even if none of them or not a lot of them will be the next Einsteins or the next super football players or whatever else that they want to do, a lot of them will be more respectable people and will show a better example of what their community can contribute and achieve in our society, as for just a couple of examples, both externally and both internally. That means that externally now people see that this community actually has merit not only in a few especially gifted people that just so happen to have these kind of qualities. No, everyone in this community can be a worthy and good member of the society that can help and lead a good life that is both productive for himself and for the society as a whole. It means that internally, I have way more examples of people that actually succeed and people that are way closer to me to succeed, at least to some degree. I'll take closing before I continue.
You're ignoring that we showed you if a few get to higher places from these groups, they can help many others. And
again, thank you. I just explained to you why, while the group is marginalized and stays marginalized, it is gonna be very hard for those people to actually help a lot to their group without compromising their own careers in one sense or another. And also, not all people care that much about our people. There are people that are just somewhat more selfish and just want to have a good life for themselves. They will just prefer to go into a good neighborhood and forget about their upbringings, because that's also a legitimate thing to want, just a good life for myself. I don't have to help everyone in my community, and I don't think that everybody would do that as well. On our side, it is way more certain that you get good impacts on the whole society. And once you get a better impact on the whole community, even more than it being way more important for the promotion of this marginalized community and giving them more power, which is our purpose, it also means that once those people are actually getting the means in large numbers to succeed, you're going to see in the long term more brilliant people and more good people coming of this community without the need of help of external forces, which is more empowering and also gives you way more people that are brilliant. And because of that, we think we win this debate and you should support. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that speech and for the entire debate. Please go outside back to the main room. We'll pop back out in about 15 minutes. No, less than 15 minutes to come get you for the call explanation. And can I just check from Orgcom that we're no longer being recorded during the judge deliberation?
Hopefully not.
Yeah, I hope so, but
yeah, that would be ideal.
Orgcom, hello. Wait, I'll go in the Discord. Yeah. But just take 2 minutes to look at your notes, come up with a call, and then we'll have the discussion after that. There's so many ask someone things that I just never know which one to do.
And then announcement hall is above it all. So yeah. It's all confusing.